Welcome back guys to another video. The months of shame is the time period following the first war for Armageddon that saw hostilities between the Inquisition and the Space Wolves. What happened? Let's find out. The Space Hulk, Devourer of Stars, appeared in the Armageddon system. Upon reaching orbit, it disgorged a vast chaos horde, led by the infamous demon Primarch Angron, upon the world of Armageddon's continent of Armageddon Prime. The chaos horde initially made great gains, taking control of Armageddon Prime and threatening to overwhelm the other continent of Armageddon Secundus. However, the defenses of the lower continent held, chiefly due to the valor of the Great Wolf Logan Gremna and 300 of his brave Space Wolves, allowing a full brotherhood of 100 Grey Knights under the command of Brother Captain Tarama Aurelian to arrive, carrying the battle directly to Angron and his diabolic horde of Kerned Berserkers and Corned Demons. In a titanic clash, Angron and his bloodthirster honor guard were eventually bested, though it cost the lives of almost the full brotherhood, 96 dead and 9 permanently disabled out of a total force of 109. The Space Wolves continued to fight in the First War for Armageddon through to its conclusion. The First War for Armageddon was also significant for the heroes it produced. Of the scant few Grey Knights who survived the final confrontation with the demon Primarch Angron, many went to achieve high ranks within the chapter. Arvan Stern, Kadan Van, and Dark Tigvar fought as newly ennobled knights on Armageddon's dusty plains, as did the then Justica Vorth Mordrak. The battle had a profound effect upon one knight in particular. Upon returning victorious to Titan, Garen Crow set aside duty to his brotherhood and entered the ranks of the Purifiers, where he has served with unblemished honor to this day. Although they had defeated all that of the forces of chaos had thrown at them during the bloody campaign that was the first war for Armageddon, the victorious soldiers of Armageddon were doomed from the start. They had gained knowledge of the existence of chaos and been exposed to its corruption. The Inquisition had no intention of letting the wider Imperium discover the true nature of the demonic foe that had attacked Armageddon, or of the ways and means victory had been achieved with the aid of the Grey Knights. The Inquisitors present voted to sterilize and quarantine for life the remaining population of the Hive World, even though it was generally considered untainted and ignorant of the truth concerning the existence of chaos. The valiant Imperial Guard, BDF regiments, and other human defenders of the world were to suffer the same fate or be liquidated. The Inquisition ordered all of the people who had fought on the planet, except for the Space Marines, to be rounded up at gunpoint, sterilized to prevent any possible chaos-induced mutations in their offspring, and placed in Adeptus Arbites war camps across the galaxy, with the world to be recolonized by people from other regions of the galaxy with no knowledge of the war. Over the strident protests of the Space Wolves and the Great Wolf Logan Gremna, the Inquisition followed through with this plan, and the Grey Knights frigate Carapella, still in orbit of Armageddon, was ordered to destroy the first Imperial Guard troop transport to leave Armageddon as it approached a warp jump point off-world. Following this first incident, a years-long cat and mouse campaign, later remembered as the Months of Shame, took place between the Space Wolves and the human charges from Armageddon on one side and the Inquisition and Grey Knights on the other. It was characterized by increasingly deadly fratricidal actions by both sides, and rapidly escalated into a full-fledged Imperial civil war between the Space Wolves and the Inquisition. However, many of the attached Grey Knights were upset at their involvement in the purge, and were demoralized by having to fight the brother Astartes of the Space Wolves. Gremna saw the Inquisition's actions following the war as betraying the very people who had honorably fought for their homes and for the Emperor, and if the Imperium did not protect those who fought for it, he did not believe it had any purpose. The Inquisition saw this policy as an unfortunate but necessary part of its mandate and duty in applying the Imperial policy of secrecy concerning chaos, and it would not suffer the questioning of its authority. Finally, in an attempt to bring the conflict to an end, in 451 M41, the Inquisitor Lord Gizme Cassianurus ordered his growing inquisitorial armada, including Grey Knight chapter fleet vessels, to Fenris. The Space Wolves lightly defended homeworld, in a last-ditch gambit to force those Astartes to comply with the Inquisition's wishes concerning the liquidation or imprisonment of Armageddon's survivors. Cassianurus' armada, including a multitude of Inquisition warships, Grey Knight vessels, and the entire chapter fleet and strength of the Red Hunter Space Marine chapter, arrived at Fenris and surrounded the planet in high orbit, whilst targeting the Fang, the Space Wolves' fortress monastery, for a devastating orbital bombardment. The planet was virtually undefended, as the vast majority of the Space Wolves and their chapter fleet were dispersed on missions across the galaxy. Cassianurus again asked for a parley with any ranking Space Wolves present. A delegation consisting of Cassianurus, the Grey Knight Hyperion, and Inquisitor Annika Giles Dotair, a native Fenrisian, arrived at the Fang for the meeting. The Space Wolves had awoken the venerable dreadnought beyond the fell-handed to deal with the inquisitorial party. The ancient warrior who had once fought beside the Primarch Leman Russ during the Great Crusade immediately received the unbidden respect and reverence of the inquisitorial delegation, and was thought to be a more temperate and wise representative for the chapter than Logan Grimnar. Cassianurus asked for the Space Wolves' express obeisance to imperial authority and the chain of command, and a penitent crusade to be undertaken to atone for the chapter's guilt for the attacks upon the servants of the Inquisition. In exchange, the Inquisition and the Imperium at large would take no other action or censure against the chapter. Before negotiations could go further, to the surprise of everyone, the Space Wolves chapter fleet under the command of Logan Grimnar translated from the warp near Fenris. As the Inquisition delegation made haste to their flagship, a short, brutal fight ensued over the planet. Eventually, Grimnar and his Wolf Guard teleported to Cassianurus' flagship's bridge, where the Great Wolf unceremoniously beheaded the Inquisitor Lord. Grimnar then proceeded to move the last survivor of the Grey Knight squad, Cassian, who had survived the conflict on Armageddon. To save his brother, Hyperion confronted Grimnar, and in the duel that followed, he used his psychic powers to crack Grimnar's ancient venerated frost axe Morkai. As Hyperion then confronted Grimnar and 20 Space Wolves alone, Bjorn the Fell-Handed teleported to the bridge and put an end to the fight. Bjorn told Grimnar that the internecine war between the chapter and the Inquisition on behalf of the survivors of Armageddon had to stop. The inquisitorial force should be allowed to leave Fenris unscathed, and the Space Wolves should reach an understanding with the Imperium. He then addressed Hyperion and Inquisitor Giles Dotair as the ranking Inquisition representatives present, and told them that no Inquisition vessel should ever again appear above Fenris. Additionally, the Space Wolves who had acquired the knowledge of the existence of the Grey Knights would not be mind-scrubbed, as was customary, though the remaining Armageddon survivors would be handed over for mind-wiping and dispersion across the galaxy. The combatants accepted the terms, and shortly afterwards, the inquisitorial force left the system. Yet the larger institutional dispute between the Inquisition and the Space Wolves was not resolved. As a result of what they continued to believe was a betrayal of the Imperium's core values, the Space Wolves have never again trusted the Inquisition and moved to frustrate inquisitorial designs at every opportunity. Since that time, the Space Wolves have had little but hostility to show towards the Inquisition, and few indeed are the Inquisitors allowed into the Fang in recent times. The months of shame caused extensive casualties amongst the chapter, which lost almost 100 Astartes engaged in the combat. Several Grey Knight starships were lost or destroyed during the hostilities, including at least one capital vessel. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more.